Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're just going to ask that you keep your microphones muted until the end of the presentation, and then we'll have time for a Q&A.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for the 5 steps to making friends, excuse me, and finding love on the autism spectrum, a roadmap for parents and providers, with Jeremy Hamburgh, founder of My Best Social Life. My name is Naza Kawaja, outreach specialist for early autism services and our sister company, Autism Family Partnership. I'd like to share a little bit of information about our companies before introducing our presenter. Early Autism Services provides applied behavior analysis, or ABA, behavioral intervention therapy, and family guidance to children with autism. Our sister company, Autism Family Partnership, provides individualized home, school, and community-based ABA therapy services designed for adolescents and young adults up to age 21 on the autism spectrum. Early Autism Services, or EAST, provides services in India, Australia, and 13 regions throughout the US. Autism Family Partnership is in 3 of those 13 regions: Michigan, Illinois, and Richmond, Virginia. All of our ABA services are provided in the child's home, at our centers, or in the community. And by community, I mean we are able to provide support wherever the child or young adult spends his or her day. Preschool, daycare, school, and after-school programs, etc. In addition to ABA, Early Autism Services provides speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, and school readiness programs in our centers in Virginia, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama, and social skills programs in Michigan and Oregon. Whether you are joining via the live stream right now, or you are watching the recording of our presentation, we appreciate your time greatly and your interest in hearing about this step-by-step strategy that autism parents or practitioners can use to help adults 16 and older with autism have more seamless conversations, social interactions that lead to friendships, dates, and relationships that are fulfilling. If you have a question, like Michelle mentioned earlier, or if you need more clarification or examples, please put your comments in the Zoom chat. We ask that you all remain muted during the presentation, and we will take questions at the end. If you're watching the recording of the presentation, please send any questions or requests for resources addressed today to mberlinski@earlyautismservices.com. That's mberlinski@earlyautismservices.com. Now I'd like to introduce you to our Autism Family Partnership Clinical Director, and also Jeremy Hamburgh. Let's start with Michelle. Michelle Berlinski is a board certified behavioral analyst and the clinical director of Autism Family Partnership. Michelle has been working in the field of applied behavior analysis since 2013. She received her undergraduate degree in psychology from Wayne State University in Detroit and her master's degree in foundations of behavior analysis from the University of Cincinnati. Michelle's current work focuses on providing high quality ABA services to underserved populations and age groups. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, Jeremy Hamburgh. Jeremy's a dating and friendship coach who empowers autistic adults to make friends, build relationships, start dating, and find love. He has over 12 years of experience coaching autistic adults into the social lives they want and deserve. He has collaborated with a variety of organizations on dating and friendship skills workshops, and he thoroughly enjoys that aha moment when a young adult or their parent realizes that a social life is possible. Jeremy offers a no-cost 90-minute strategy session to every family whose young adult wants to have a more vibrant social life, and he enjoys giving families incredible clarity on the path out of loneliness and into a more connected life. Jeremy's passion is his first of its kind program called Social Life 360. It's an innovative program that trains his clients to confidently meet new people in new places, while at the same time providing them and their families with a supporting and loving community that makes them feel embraced. Jeremy does all of this with a deep commitment to kindness, compassion, and world-class support. You can learn more about Jeremy and the Social Life 360 strategy at mybestsociallife.com. You can also contact him about scheduling your family strategy session at jeremy@mybestsociallife.com. Welcome, Jeremy. We are
Thanks for
very
having me.
excited to have you, and we are very much looking forward to your wisdom and professional expertise. I'll hand over the mic to you.
Before Jeremy begins, I just want to encourage, if anybody is interested, since we are talking about social skills, if you feel comfortable turning on your camera, we'd be happy to see everyone's faces. If not, that's completely okay. We'd love to see, especially if you have questions at the end. All right,
Yeah.
Jeremy, go ahead.
It is way more fun talking to actual people than to pictures of people. Feels like talking in a gallery sometimes, but hey, to each his own and her own. So a big thank you, Naza. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Naza? Okay, I was pronouncing it incorrectly for like a month. So thank you, Naza and Michelle, for inviting me to talk with all of you about a topic that's really, really meaningful to me. I'm Jeremy Hamburgh. I am the founder of My Best Social Life, where I am a dating and friendship coach for autistic adults. And I'm really excited to talk with all of you about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is helping people make friends, find love, and just live a fulfilling social life. So Naza told me that most of you joining us this afternoon or this evening will be either parents or practitioners. And that creates some linguistic hurdles because some of you have sons on the spectrum and others of you have daughters on the spectrum. And some of you may have younger adults and some of you may have older adults and some of you may not be parents at all. You're practitioners with clients on the spectrum. So to keep things simple, I'm going to use the term your autistic adult. And I'm also going to use the pronoun them instead of he, she, or them. And I know that my English teacher is going to, turn over in her grave because it's not their most grammatically correct approach, but it is simpler. So with all of that semantic stuff out of the way, what we're going to talk about in the next 40 minutes or so is an important how-to list for having a social life that will make your autistic adult truly happy. So we're going to cover how to help your autistic adult use their hobbies and interests to find people who they'll enjoy having in their life, and how to help them stop getting tongue-tied and having their minds go blank, because it's so frustrating when your son or daughter or client powers through their fears and anxieties to have a conversation with someone, but then it goes nowhere, or worse, it goes badly. We're also going to cover how to help them have deeper conversations that go beyond small talk so they can build a real connection and a genuine bond with wonderful people, because that feeling of connection is what's going to bring people into your autistic adult's life, and it's what's going to inspire people to stay there. And we're going to talk about how to help your autistic adult use their unique autistic traits to build their confidence and reduce their anxiety and self-doubt, because they have so much light and love to give, and we want to empower your son or daughter or client to share their gifts with the world. So in short, this is all about how to help your autistic adult be the most calm and confident and courageous version of themselves without writing an online profile, without sending 1,000 messages to random strangers, and maybe most importantly, without acting fake. So that's what we're going to cover. Before we go too much further, let me take a few minutes to introduce myself and share with you a bit about my own journey. I'm a friendship and dating coach for people with autism, but my career started as a lawyer. I spent 7 years as in-house counsel for JPMorgan Chase Bank, and 7 years before that as a criminal prosecutor in New York City, specializing in financial crimes. And it was around the time that I was finishing law school that I started a social group for Jewish young adults in New York City and Manhattan. And we'd get about 100 or 200 people to our events, and they were all single and looking for love. And two of my friends from the group, Abby and Karen, asked me to teach them how to walk into our events with confidence and walk out with a date. So I spent the next 3 years learning the science of attraction, everything from psychology to neurology to evolutionary biology. And I combined that with the skills that I was developing as a prosecutor. After all, when you think about a courtroom lawyer, you think about someone who projects confidence, who asks good questions, who tells good stories, and who's a good listener, right? Well, according to science, those also happen to be 4 of the most important skills for making friends and landing dates as well. So I combined everything I knew and everything I learned into a workshop. And I went to the Manhattan JCC and I said, hey, I'm really good at winning over a jury of 12. How about I teach people how to win over a jury of 1? And they're like, yeah, cool. Like, we'll do that as long as we don't have to pay you. And I was like, that's a deal. So we did that, and I was invited back 5 or 6 times. But what I didn't know was that the Manhattan JCC was also home to 3 special needs organizations at the time. And their members were actually coming to my dating workshops. So the special needs organization started inviting me to do workshops for them as well, which I did. And I ended up spending 3 years as the in-house friendship and dating coach for the adaptations program at the Silver Center for Special Needs. And something really cool happened there. My program at Adaptations inspired an award-winning film. The movie was called Keep the Change, and it featured 2 autistic actors who were in my dating program, David Polanski and Samantha Olisafon. And if you haven't seen it, it's a fictional story about David and Samantha meeting at an autism support group and starting a romantic relationship. It won Best Film at the Tribeca Film Festival, which is a huge honor. And I'm just really proud that the very first place it was screened was in my dating group. Looking back on it, I think a big reason why the film was so groundbreaking was because nobody was talking about autistic people dating and finding love. You have to remember, this was years before Netflix created Love on the Spectrum. So, when the movie came out, seeing autistic people dating was like, it was a novelty. And I felt really strongly that it shouldn't be. So I dedicated my career to cracking the code to social success for people with autism. And I knew that my approach needed to be different because the way social skills were being taught in most places in the autism community just wasn't working. So I'm proud to say that our program, which Naza told you is called Social Life 360, is like nothing else on the planet. I work with Alana Frank, who spent 16 years as a New York City public school teacher with a focus on special needs students. And we do 3 things that nobody else does. We give our clients a simple step-by-step strategy to make friends and start dating, and it's backed by science. And we hold our clients' hands every step along the way. And we're there to support our clients and their parents when they need it. And we give our clients a loving and inclusive community from minute 1 so that they feel included and embraced by others who are also really autism positive. And regardless of whether someone is the right fit for the program or not, as Naza said, we're a strategy session at no charge to every family touched by autism. Alana and I get together with families that want to talk about social living, and we spend 90 minutes exploring what their young adults' friendships and relationship goals are and where they've been getting stuck, and then what the roadmap is to being socially successful. And at the end of our strategy session, if the Social Life 360 program is the right option, we talk about that. And if something else would serve them better, we make an introduction. But either way, the strategy session is really eye-opening and really inspiring. And we just love meeting new families. So that's me. And I'm proud of the incredible impact that Alana and I have on the lives of people with autism and their families. And my promise to you is that by the end of this training, you'll have a simple and effective 5-step roadmap that you can use to empower your son or daughter or client to meet more people with more confidence and do it faster than they thought possible, and maybe faster than you thought possible as well. But for most of your autistic adults right now, socializing is a struggle. For many of them, the reason why is because meeting new people, bringing them into their life, keeping them there, it can all feel really overwhelming. And it can feel to your autistic adult like each part of the social process is its own riddle that they need to solve. And so, take a moment, look at the list, and just ask yourself, how many of the things on the list describe what your son or your daughter or your client is feeling, right? They're puzzled, they get nervous, they get anxious, they're jealous, they're frustrated. And it's because they don't know where to find people they'll enjoy, or how to start talking to them, or how to keep the conversation going, or how to read their intentions. I think Dr. Dave Caudell put it really well when he spoke to my client community. He said, people on the spectrum are just sick and tired of poorly imitating what other people do so easily. And maybe the worst feeling of all is something that we hear every day from almost every autism family, which is that you feel like you've tried everything and everything has failed. And for the longest time, that struggle was practically inevitable because nobody had any real idea how to help people with autism build social lives. Certainly there were some success stories here and there. And for those of you who are practitioners, I'm sure that you've had clients along the way whose lives, have changed for the better. But I think that we can probably all agree that for the longest time, nobody had cracked the code to social success in a way that was repeatable and scalable. Which is why I dedicated my career to doing it. And that's why the 5 steps we're talking about today are so important, because it cuts through all the conflicting advice that's been failing autistic people for decades. And I say that because the 5 steps are a simple and step-by-step approach that helps you give your autistic adult more control over who they're bringing into their life and how they are building a deep connection with those people and the confidence that they feel doing it. And particularly for those of you who are parents here today, I think you'll start to see why everything that you've tried before hasn't really created the social life and the relationships that your young adult wants so badly. But when you help your son or your daughter or your client take the 5 steps, they'll have a clear strategy that can empower them to have deeper conversations and smoother social interactions. And they'll be able to feel like the most cool and confident and courageous version of themselves. In a very real way, this is a roadmap to social success by people with autism for people with autism. And I say that because I've been coaching the autism community for almost 13 years now. And what happened was that over time, I started to realize that there was a huge difference where a small group of adults with autism were living exciting social lives and they were dating and some of them were even getting married, but most other people on the spectrum just continued to struggle. And so I began learning from the small group of successful autistic people and see what they were doing. And then I compared that to what all the other lonely people were doing. And here's what I found. It became clear to me that there were 5 things that socially successful people with autism were doing that everyone else wasn't. And I started calling them the 5 steps, and I began building those 5 steps into a complete strategy that I gave my clients. And what happened to them was really amazing. My clients started making friends faster, and many of them started dating and finding love, and some of my clients even got engaged and married. And so I have an immense amount of gratitude to Naza and Michelle for organizing this discussion, because I am passionate about ending loneliness in the autism community. And I want to see your sons and your daughters and your clients live their best lives. So let's start with the first step. The first step is to help your autistic adult picture their storybook ending. And that's a fancy way of saying that it's important to help your son or daughter or client understand what they want their social life to look like and who they want to be in it. In every strategy session we do, Alana and I always ask the same question. What do you want your new friends and your new relationship to be like? And the answers are usually something really short, like, I want someone nice. I want someone who will appreciate me. I want someone to do fun things with. And obviously, those desires are real, but they're pretty vague. And it's because most people don't have a clear vision of who they want in their life and what they want their life to look like. And that's a problem for adults on the spectrum, because how do you find someone special when you don't even know what you're looking for, right? And it's a problem for you too as well, because how do you help your son or your daughter or your client find someone special when they don't even know what they want? The desire to have someone nice who will appreciate you and do things with you is very real, but it doesn't give us any guidance for how to help our autistic adults narrow down their options and decide what they need to be doing next. My mentor puts it this way. He says, you can never achieve a goal without having a clear vision of what that goal is. And I think that makes perfect sense. Clarity gives us direction. It's what allows us to reverse engineer the right strategy. And that's why your first step is to help your autistic adult picture what they want their life to be and who they want to be in it, because then we can figure out exactly what we need to do to make it happen. And that's true for everything in life, right? Whether it's winning the Super Bowl or baking brownies or landing a job or meeting amazing people who will make your autistic adult's life feel complete. If you want to empower your autistic adult to bring new people into their life, then they must have a clear vision of who those people are. And that's why I call this picturing their storybook ending. And so just to be a little bit more concrete about it, it's like helping them make a movie in their mind that they can watch over and over again, so that when they go into the real world, they already know what success looks like. And they are the main character in this movie, and the cast are the people that they want surrounding them. And so my suggestion to you is, help your autistic adults start creating this movie in their mind. Help them start picturing who's in the movie with them. What are they doing together? Where are they going together? What are the conversations that they're having? And get really like specific and granular here, right? Like, what are the questions that your autistic adult is asking? What answers are they getting back? How does your son or your daughter or your client feel at different points in the scene? And feeling is important. And winning, what does winning look like? What does it feel like when winning happens? I'm a dad that goes to a lot of kids' birthday parties. And since I'm fairly new to California, I'm using these birthday parties to make new friends. So here's what I do. I picture myself walking into the party. What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? And then I picture what the other parents are wearing. And then I picture myself walking up to one of them. And then I imagine what the conversation is like, the questions that I'm asking, the answers they're giving back to me. I picture the conversation flowing smoothly. And then I visualize myself asking, the dad to have coffee with me later in the week. And then I get to the best part. I picture him saying yes. And then I imagine what that feels like to hear that yes. And the more vivid the movie, the better we can help your autistic adult live that life, right? The more vivid the movie, the easier it is for us to make it reality. And now, will life happen exactly like the movie in their mind? Like, no, of course not, right? But what I found to be true is that when my clients shoot for the stars, even if they miss, they still hit the moon. And the same is going to be true for your son or your daughter or your client. When they set big goals, even if they fall a little short, they can still accomplish a lot. So the first step is helping your son or your daughter or your client picture their storybook ending by knowing who they want in their life and what they want their life to look like. The second step is finding those people. And so I like to call this finding your tribe. And it's all about helping your autistic adult spend their time where the right people are spending theirs. When Alana and I do strategy sessions, the big question we always start with, like right off the bat, is what's not working in your social life or what's not working in your dating life. And almost all of your autistic adults' peers share with us the same frustration. They say, I don't know where to go to find people. And that's a big problem when you're trying to have a social life, right? When your autistic adult doesn't know where to go to find the right people, what ends up happening is that they mostly hang out with you, their parents. And when you aren't playing the role of best friend, they spend a lot of time alone in their room, which usually means that they play a lot of video games or they spend a lot of time staring at their phone, consuming, way too much TikTok and YouTube and, doom scrolling through Instagram. And when they're doing that, it means that they're not in the places where their future friends and maybe their future partner are hanging out, which means that they are giving themselves no chance at the life that they want. What you really want is for your son or daughter or your client to have a true friend or a true partner. And that means that they should be looking for people who have three qualities. Quality number one, they accept your autistic adult for who they are, and they allow your son or your daughter or your client to be their authentic self. And quality number two, they are committed to the relationship, which means that the other person puts effort into getting together with your autistic adult. And your son or your daughter or your client should be excited about getting together with that person, because the third quality is that a true friend or partner also shares at least one of their interests or hobbies or passions, whether that's art or anime or hiking or music or, like, don't shoot me, like video games. Those people are their tribe. They're the ones who are most likely to click with your son or your daughter or your client. So step 2 of the strategy is to help your autistic adult spend time in the places where their tribe is getting together, which always leads to the question, is the internet a good place to meet people? And I used to think so. It seemed so logical to me at the time that the internet would be the solution to loneliness for the autism community, because there are like 5 billion people on the internet. That seemed like a really good thing. And you don't need to make eye contact on the internet. And that seemed like a really good thing. And there's no body language when you're chatting on the internet. And that seemed really good. And you have time to think about what you're writing and your questions and your answers. So, I was in the very large crowd of people who thought the internet was exactly what the autism community needed to solve the loneliness problem. And now I'm part of the very large crowd of people who are very disappointed, because in reality, the internet has actually made loneliness worse for many people. Many of your autistic adults have wasted countless hours sending messages to strangers on dating sites only to get ignored or ghosted, or maybe they've messaged with strangers through a gaming portal or a social media app, but they never actually get to meet in real life. Or even worse, those strangers on the internet may be out to defraud or exploit your son or your daughter or your client. Because as someone who spent 7 years as a criminal prosecutor in New York City, I can tell you with complete confidence that one of the biggest factors in a love scam is loneliness. Lonely people want to believe that the attention they are getting is real, which is why they fall for fraudsters at a truly alarming rate. And the internet is just the easiest place on the planet for fraudsters to find lonely people to victimize. But scams aside, autistic people have shared with us that trying to find people online is actually twice as hard as meeting them in person. And there are 2 reasons that we see for that. Number 1, the internet is full of hidden rules. And just look at the list on the screen. There are hidden rules for everything. Writing your profile, choosing your photos, deciding who to message, what to say, how often. And then you have to ask them on a date, and then there are hidden rules for that too, right? It's daunting. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. So the hidden rules are the first big problem. And the second problem is this: even if your autistic adult manages to master all the hidden rules of the internet, they still need the in-person social skills to win someone over in real life. And think about that for a moment. You can spend years learning how to interact with people online, but once you master it, the only thing that gets you is like one meeting in person, like one coffee, one date, one whatever. That's it. And once you get to that in-person meeting, you still need the conversation skills and the body language skills and the social skills and the confidence to create that bond and that spark to do something with that meeting. So what's happening is that the internet is actually doubling the number of social skills that your autistic adult needs to master, which means double the work and double the frustration and double the time, if not more. And when you have spent a lifetime struggling, double is not what you want. I certainly wouldn't want it. So here's the bottom line. The most socially successful people on the spectrum are not sitting at home, and they're not hanging out in bars, and they're not going to clubs, and they're not spending all their time on the internet. What makes them successful is that they are focused on finding their tribe and meeting the people in it. And my suggestion to you is help your autistic adult do the same thing. Help them find places where people are doing things in your area that they find fun and exciting, and where the people are around their age and where they're welcoming and inclusive. Because what's become crystal clear to me over the last 12 plus years is that nothing good happens when your son or your daughter or your client is spending their time in the wrong places, or worse, feeling lonely at home alone. But when they find their tribe, then they'll have more fun, they'll be more relaxed, and they can be the best version of themselves. So that's the second step, helping them find their tribe. The third step. This is about way more than friendship and dating. Helping your autistic adult build their mental library is a tool that can help them in all aspects of their life, whether it's a job, or a job interview or a family gathering or a meeting with their boss, because it's all about being prepared ahead of time with interesting things to talk about and interesting questions to ask so that they can have better conversations that create that spark and that connection. And that's so important because once they know who they want in their life and where to go to find those people, then they need to know how to win them over. And so that's the third step. And most people on the spectrum tell us that winning people over has been a lifelong battle for them. They go into social situations and they don't know what to say, and they don't know what to ask, and they don't know what to do. So they either keep to themselves or they have a conversation that goes badly. And it isn't their fault, and it isn't your fault. Most people don't know what guidance to give someone on the spectrum. So they suggest things like, say hi, introduce yourself, just start talking to people, be yourself. And it's meant well, but the reality is that it doesn't work for adults on the spectrum. Frankly, it doesn't work for typically able people either. Because if I walked up to you and I said, hi, I'm Jeremy, what's your name? You would think it's weird. And you'd be right, because that's just not how adults meet each other. So what's happening is that your autistic adult is going out into the social world without a solid social plan. And as my other mentor always says, when you fail to have a plan, then you're planning to fail. And I'd be willing to bet that every person here can appreciate the truth of that statement. When we fail to have a plan, then we are planning to fail. But that's what's happening when most autistic people go out into the social world. They're trying their best, but what usually happens is that they get nervous and anxious, and then they start tripping over their words and they get tongue-tied because their mind is racing. And sometimes their mind goes blank entirely and the conversation just falls apart because it has no flow and it just feels really uncomfortable. And in the end, your son or your daughter gives up or the other person walks away. That's what always happens, right? They're trying their hardest, but they don't make a connection and the other person doesn't feel that spark. So your son or your daughter or your client goes home alone, again, no new friend, no phone number, no date, and nothing to show for their effort except more frustration. Frustration is a terrible feeling. People like to win. People like to win. And a big part of that, a big part of winning is having a genuine conversation with someone that creates a real connection. And your autistic adult is absolutely capable of it. And I say that because conversations usually follow a pattern, and people with autism tend to be very good at patterns. So let's use that to their advantage. The way that we can empower them to do that is by helping them think about a conversation as nothing more than a combination of 4 elements. Element number 1, the questions that people ask to keep the conversation flowing. Element number 2, the answers that people give. Element number 3, the stories people tell to make the conversation interesting and entertaining. And element number 4, the next steps they decide on, like when they're going to call each other or when they're going to get together or hang out. And that's really it. Think about it. Almost every conversation is just those 4 elements mixed and matched in some way. Questions, answers, stories, and planning. And once your son or daughter or client is looking for those 4 elements in conversation, they are also going to start noticing patterns in the way that the elements are combined too, which is exactly what socially successful people with autism do. They realize that conversations follow a pattern, and so they're prepared for it. And the way they prepare for it is by building a mental library for each element of the conversation. They have an effective conversation starter. My British friends tell me it's called a chat-up line. You might call it a pickup line or an opener, whatever you call it. It's something to start a conversation on a consistent basis. And they prepare deep questions to follow up with that provoke thought, because autistic people hate small talk. And you know what? So does everyone else. And they've prepared interesting answers that build intrigue, because short answers, which are very, very common in the autism community, are the fastest way to kill a conversation. And they've also prepared stories about their life, the things that they've done, the places that they've gone, the obstacles that they've overcome, the successes that they've had, because people love hearing stories, right? People love listening to stories. But more than that, people love people who tell stories. So my suggestion is that you help your son or daughter or client do the same thing. Help them build their mental library, and they're going to love what happens, because when they have a mental library of things to talk about, their mind won't go blank and their tongue won't get tied, and conversations will start to flow more effortlessly. And that is magnetic. That is when the winning really begins. Because as I said before, winning feels awesome. And what I've learned over the years from analyzing my clients' wins is that those wins happen faster and they come easier when they have found their strengths and when they use those strengths to their advantage. And so the fourth step is helping your autistic adult find their autism superpower, because those superpowers are absolutely there. But right now, the world is stuck in the old ways of thinking about autism. Too many people in our society, and maybe even in the autism community, they only see the obstacles. They believe it's a disease and that your son or your daughter or your client needs to hide who they truly are. And they need to apologize for how their brain works. And they need to mask their quirks. And they, just act like everyone else, right? You just need to act like everyone. And it's devastating. The old ways of thinking about autism have been downright destructive to people in the autism community, and maybe even to your son or your daughter or your client, or maybe even to you, right? At the very least, the old ways of thinking make your son or daughter feel like they're a problem that needs to be cured. And it makes them feel broken and defective and invisible, and they feel like they don't belong, and it makes them feel unwanted and insignificant. And that is paralyzing. It is paralyzing when your autistic adult feels that way. And what's so heartbreaking is that the exact opposite is true, right? Autistic is not lesser, it's just different. And differences are important. Society is stronger when we are not all the same. Differences can be superpowers. So my suggestion to you is help your autistic adult find their superpower and turn them to their advantage. And if you need help doing that, start by thinking about all the incredible light and love that your son or your daughter or your client can bring to this world with their honesty and integrity and empathy and loyalty and commitment and creativity and inclusivity and tenacity, because those are all traits that people with autism have in spades, right? Your son, your daughter, your client, they have gifts to give other people in this world, but too often those gifts are locked inside them. So let's help them uncover their superpowers, because the world is just a scary place right now. And people desperately need your son or your daughter's light and love and goodness. And they have peers who are already doing it. They have peers who are living the life that your autistic adult wants to live. And rather than reinvent the social wheel, just do what the socially successful people are doing. Just copy them, follow their strategy, right? Help your autistic adult figure out who they want in their life and what they want their life to look like. That's step one, picturing their storybook ending. Then help them spend their time in the places where their future friends and partners are getting together, right? That's step two, finding their tribe. And then help them plan for the questions that they want to ask and the stories they want to tell, because a great conversation is the spark that creates a friendship and a relationship. That's step three, building their mental library. And do all of that with more confidence and less anxiety, because you helped your autistic adult find their autism superpowers. That's the fourth step. So now let's talk about the fifth step. It's the one that separates autistic people whose lives change quickly from everyone else who just struggles endlessly. What separates the people who win from everyone else is the right mentor. The right mentor is the secret weapon of your autistic adults' peers who are living their best lives. And I'm going to share with you something that I wish I had known years ago. And it's this: everyone should have a mentor. People on the spectrum, parents, autism specialists, everyone should have a mentor. The common denominator of every successful individual is a mentor who guided them. And I truly challenge you to think of anyone who won at anything and did it without a mentor or a coach. Nobody wins alone. There's a great mentor or coach behind every great achievement. Michael Jordan had Phil Jackson, Bill Gates had Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey had Jeffrey Jacobs, the Beatles had George Martin, Luke Skywalker had Yoda. I have 5 mentors of my own, not including my parents. Everyone, and I mean everyone, should have a mentor, because trial and error is a recipe for failure. But the right mentor gives your autistic adults exactly what they need to be successful, starting with a proven strategy, right? A social strategy that other autistic people, just like your son or daughter, have used so that you know it works. And that strategy is so important, but truly it is not everything. Strategy means nothing if you don't use it. So the right mentor is going to be there to inspire your autistic adult and motivate them, because winning is a process. Socializing is a process. And there are going to be moments along the way when your autistic adult doubts themselves. But the right mentor will be there by their side to boost them up when they need it most. And they'll hold your autistic adult accountable, because humans have a tendency to slack off when nobody's looking. But the right mentor is going to help them stay on track so that they can keep making progress. And the right mentor will also be there to troubleshoot and to solve the obstacles that inevitably pop up along the way. And that's really important, because there are going to be times when things go wrong and your autistic adult doesn't know why, and neither do you. And at that moment, your son or daughter is going to have exactly three options. They can quit. That's what most people do. Or they can waste months or even years trying to figure out the problem themselves. Or they can turn to their mentor, who knows exactly what's going wrong and knows exactly how to fix the problem. Troubleshooting the problems that arise along the way is just absolutely critical. That's why nobody has ever transformed their life by reading a self-help book or watching YouTube videos. Books and videos feel good. They feel like you're doing something. But when a question comes up or you feel stuck, there's nobody there to help you. But the right mentor is going to be there for your son or your daughter to reconnect them to their dream, to remind them of their greatness, to show them exactly what went wrong, and to show them exactly how to fix it and get them back on the path to success quickly. I went to one of my clients' weddings. His name is Douglas, and I was actually in his wedding. I gave him and his bride a blessing during the ceremony under the marital canopy. And he came up to me afterwards at the reception, and he said something to me that I'll always remember. He said, when the odds are against you, you have to change the odds. And Douglas knew the odds. 91% of autistic people spend their life alone. They grow old with nobody. And that's not what Douglas wanted for himself, but everything else that he tried had failed. Online dating, meetup groups, all that stuff, it didn't work. So he needed to change the odds, and that's why he sought out a mentor, because that's what the right mentor does. And now he's married, and he has a wonderful wife, and they're happy together, and he hasn't looked back. My partner, Alana, and I love serving the autism community because we love helping people win. Helping people with autism live up to their potential and achieve their dream of friendship and relationship is honestly what gets us out of bed in the morning. It means the world to us. And so we want to share with you what we can do to help. Alana and I are offering to speak to you and your family personally about how your autistic adult can apply these steps to their social life starting now. And if you're a practitioner, we're offering the same to your clients and their parents. And the reason why we offer that is because whatever is keeping your autistic adult stuck, we've seen it and we've helped our clients overcome it. So Alana and I will get on the phone with your family, and we'll do a strategy session together, and we'll spend about 90 minutes together getting your family crystal clear on exactly what your autistic adult wants their friendships or relationships to be, and exactly where they've been getting stuck in the process. And then we're going to share with your family a step-by-step plan for how to fix it. And your family will leave our strategy session with a simple and effective roadmap for meeting new people and making new friends, and maybe even finding love. What I found over the years, because I've done about 700 strategy sessions now, is that since we're going to be working on one of the most important goals in your autistic adult's life, we need the most important people in their life to participate. And that's why we do the sessions with you, your autistic adult, and your spouse or your co-parent, if there is one. Having all three of your perspectives is how we make progress fast. And we know that if you want to work together with us afterwards, that's going to be a family decision. So we want everyone in the family to be there. But the strategy session itself costs nothing. There's no charge. There's no catch. It is our gift to every autism family and every person on the spectrum who wants to escape loneliness and start living a more fulfilling social life. So if that's what you're interested in, if you want to talk about taking the next step or the next chapter in your son or daughter's life, if you're a parent, the website is mybestsociallife.com/apply. There's obviously a link if you're single and on the spectrum, or you can always email me at jeremy@mybestsociallife.com, and we'll find a time that works for your family. And if you're a practitioner, for your client's family. So thank you again to Naza and Michelle for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I'm going to turn it back over to whichever one of you wants to take over.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
It's great to hear all the strategies you have. I'm going to stop our recording now so we can open it up for Q&A for everyone.